Talk radio station.
It's the Wayne Bradley Show. Conservative political radio. Giving you what you need to know. Listen up. It's the Wayne Bradley Show. It's the Wayne Bradley Show. Conservative political radio. Giving you what you need to know. Listen up. It's the Wayne Bradley Show. That's what it is. It's the Wayne Bradley Show. That's what it is. Listen up. It's the Wayne Bradley Show. Oh, it's the Wayne Bradley Show. It's the Wayne Bradley Show. Yeah.
Welcome, Detroit. Welcome to the Wayne Bradley Show, live on 9:10 a.m. in the Superstation, the future of radio. We are live here today. It's been a minute. I've been off the air for a couple days, between the breaks and the basketball games. Good to be back on the air. Good to be talking with my folks here on the radio today. We've got so much to talk about. We've got the president today who said that he wouldn't mind another shutdown if he can't get a secure border. I think we got some clips of that I sent Juwan. We got some clips of those things we're going to play a little bit later in the show. We're going to talk about my good friend and mentor, the Bishop Ira Combs, being appointed to the Michigan Civil Rights Commission, and how some activists in the LGBTQ community, I believe it is now, are a little upset about that. But I think it's important that we have balance in terms of what we call civil rights. You can't have civil rights for one group and exclude others, and that also includes people of faith. So it's interesting to see that. We're going to talk a little bit about this, the economy taking a little correction. It looks like it bounced back a little bit today, but we're also going to talk about the fact, should even Donald Trump talk to Mueller? As time gets closer here, it looks as if they're negotiating on what happened there. And we're going to also talk about the NFL football player who was killed this weekend, yesterday, Edwin Jackson, killed by an illegal immigrant. And why we must talk more about the immigration issue and how important it is to deal with it. Donald Trump obviously talked about it in a tweet today, but we're going to talk about that. Steve Bannon is also going to be talking with Mueller, Sloppy Steve. He's, I anticipate he's the one that's the real problem all along, but we'll find out more about that. But we're going to talk about something I predicted, and I'm going to see if I can find a clip of what I predicted months ago. Negroes with egos in the 13th District. I think it's gotten up to 10 candidates. Rashida Tlaib announced yesterday. Chanel Jackson is getting into the race. You have two Conyers. You have Sherry Dinogo. You have Coleman Young, bringing back for the motherland. You have Kimberly Hill-Knott, who worked for Congressman Conyers in his office. That's about 7 folks right there. And I keep predicting, I think David Kniesek is going to stay in his seat. But if Bill Wild decides to run for for the 13th District against 10 Democrats from Detroit, I think he could win. I think that they could split up the vote enough that Bill Wild could win with 3,000 to 5,000 votes, and everybody else is getting maybe 1,200 or, whatever the number is. It could be huge, because I think with 10 candidates in that race, that's severely, you got 2 Conyers in the race. How does that not split up the vote? You got other people that are going to still get into the race. You have Brenda Jones, the city councilwoman that Mike Duggan has endorsed. So, there's all kind of folks in this race, folks. And what is this doing to the political landscape in Detroit with all these different candidates running for the same seat? And they're all, some have state rep seats that they're going to leave open while they compete. This is pretty risky for some of these folks. And I am surprised that Jonathan Kinlock, who is the 13th District Chair, you need to have a meeting with all these folks, because 10 people, I don't really care if Bill Wild wins, but I just know how important and how historic that seat has been held by John Conyers. And to change all of that after Nancy Pelosi kicked John Conyers out the Democrat Party. I hope people remember that when Nancy Pelosi comes to town trying to support Gretchen Whitmer and the like, that they kicked John Conyers out. And we're going to talk about that. Give us a call, 313-778-7600. Do you think that Bill Wild could turn around and become the candidate in the 13th district? A white guy from a Westland mayor. Could he pull it off? Could he be the big upset? How would Democrats feel about that? I'm going to have to see if I can get Ken Locke maybe to call in one of these days. Let's go to Jackie, who's on the line. Jackie, thanks for calling in.
Thank you for taking my call. I don't know if you're talking about this today, but one of the things that I've been reading about the banks, and they say that the three banks, the big three banks made this much in fees in 2016, $5.4 billion in overdraft fees. It says the banks are, they're extorting poor people, really. It said, it also said that a study in the UK last year showed that bank overdrafts were 8 times more costly than payday loans.
Wow.
Interesting.
I hadn't seen that report.
Those are the things that we're not discussing. We're not discussing this credit scoring system that is a flawed system. It is a way of marginalizing not only blacks, but blacks, whites, Chinese, everybody.
Right.
Because there's something wrong with the monetary system. But we never discuss what's really wrong. Now, on the last program, I was telling the guy that there's a public bank that is supposed to be, a bill is in one of the houses in the state of Michigan for a public banking system. But the one that they have in North Dakota includes businesses and individuals.
Okay.
The one in Michigan doesn't seem to include that, but I can't really find out any information about it. Do you know anything about it?
You talking about the state banks?
The public banks. The public banks are banks where they have it in North Dakota, and it's, let me just say this, the way that the public banks are set up. Have you heard anything about a public bank in Michigan?
No, ma'am.
California has been doing this study for a public bank. Now, what I found out about the one that we're supposed to have in Michigan is, just a minute, what it says about it. And what I'd like to know is why doesn't it include individuals and businesses? Now, this
who's your state representative, Jackie?
I haven't gotten to my state representative. Okay, I can truthfully say that. I've just been reading.
Okay.
Because I don't know enough about it to ask other than to add this to the bill. It says Michigan lawmakers file a bipartisan bill to create a state public bank. Now, what this public bank is supposed to do, they said last Thursday, Michigan House Bills 5431 through 5434 were formally introduced, a bipartisan package of bills that would create and maintain a state bank. And then it goes on. The bank could, this state-run bank would effectively be a cooperative.
Do you live in the 13th district, Jackie, by any chance?
Yes, I do.
Who do you think is going to come out? Because that's what we were really talking about right now. Who do you think is who are you going to be supporting in the 13th district?
I don't know yet. There are too many people in the race at this time, and I really haven't spoken with anyone. I do know that Bankalay is having that meeting. I think it's on the 19th of February at Martin Luther King School, where they will have the gubernatorial candidates there.
Oh, okay. Interesting. All right. Well, I appreciate you for calling in, Jackie. I think with these state...
you haven't heard anything about this public bank?
No. What I've heard is legislation on it. That's why I was suggesting what you ought to do is reach out to your state rep and try to get some information from them. And I think
okay. All right.
be helpful.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Jackie, for calling in. I appreciate it. All right. So, yeah, it seems like we've got a big war going on here in the 13th District. A lot of people, a lot of folks in this race. Let's go to Eric, who's on the line. Eric, thanks for calling in.
Hey, what's up, Wayne? Looking forward to a couple of weeks from now, the event.
Excellent. Looking forward to you attending.
Black History, yeah. You know what? The Democrats are showing themselves to be an embarrassment once again because one of the theories for holding off on the election was so they can find someone to rally behind.
Exactly.
And I have no problem. People can run all they want. I have no problem with that. But mark my word, I think we've talked about this before, Wayne. If Dave Kinesic does not get into the race, Bill Weil will be the next 13th congressional congressman representing the state of Michigan and the Detroit area.
That will be so hurtful for these guys that push of a white guy that would be the seat sitting in the chair of John Conyers. And I predicted as soon as it happened. I predicted as soon as that happened that you would have an onslaught of 10 to 12 candidates, and sure enough, we haven't even got to the close to the filing deadline, and we've already got about 8 or 9 people into that race.
And once again, it proves that you have individuals that care more about themselves than was doing the best for the.
And who's to say that? Who's to say that Bill Weil wouldn't do a good job, though? He would. I know Bill Weil. He would do a good job. I mean, it's not even about race, but it's about showing the lack of political capital once again, because you have too many people that have that me mentality as opposed to the us and we mentality. And once it happens come next November or this November, you're going to have people whining, complaining, bitching, and moaning because there's a white person presenting them, which he will do a good job. Right.
But at the end of the day, they will have no one to blame but themselves based on the fact the constituents themselves are not saying that why don't you guys come up with the best 1 or 2 candidates and let us decide who we want to represent us. You got all these people in the race now, and some should not be in a race.
Right.
Some looking for a job. So it's an unfortunate situation. And, of course, you probably going to have someone on the call after I hang up saying where everyone has the right to run. We're not debating no one has the right to run.
Right.
But what I'm debating is the fact of the matter of finding the best candidate to run or a couple of candidates. You don't need, Bobby, Sue, Leroy, Abdul, and everybody else running for a seat just to get their name out there. I mean, come on. It's one of them, again, unfortunate situations where at the end of the day, what happens and the person that gets that seat, if it's someone that will not be that does not look like the majority of those in that district, the old proverbial, you have no one else to blame but yourself, will be the dominant factor as it relates to this situation, and it's sad.
Yeah, I it's unfortunate I won't see it coming. And like you said, the reasoning behind the governor holding up the whole thing in the first place was so that they could get their ducks in a row, that they could have these confidential meetings and sit down with each other and discuss who's the most qualified and who's the best candidate that we could put forward as a community, because the realistic opportunity is that someone like a David Kinesic or Bill Weil, who are not bad guys, could come in.
Not bad guys at all.
Right.
I mean,
but that's like you said. They complain about Duggan being the mayor of Detroit, and then this would happen. And he's actually supporting Brenda Jones, I believe it is, from the city.
Yeah, he is, which is interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's just then you have, what's sad about it? One of the best persons that can probably fill that seat has not announced yet. It will be Godfrey Dillard, and that's a very formidable candidate that people should be. I mean, this guy's ran statewide already, so he has the support by being on the ballot 4 years ago in 2014 for the Secretary of State position. And, so it just goes to show that political capital when it comes to the black electorate is not what they think it is.
Well, I think a lot of people just, unfortunately, because of the fact that this seat has been held by a black man, and a lot of career politicians have had their eyes on this seat for probably 10 to 15 years. There's a lot of people that feel entitled to run for this seat. And I think that's the real problem.
Well,
that's the real problem that you have, is that there's a lot of people.
The real problem, Wayne, is they allow someone to be in that seat for far too long that has not served their best interest. So if someone other than a black person gets the seat, they have nobody to blame but themselves, because they allow someone to be in that seat for far too long, did not serve that base, and people will probably call me and arguing about how great he is. Okay, great in what way? Sleeping on the job, not showing up for meetings, and that's what you find as being great, so be it. But the guy has been a non-entity the last 20-plus years. And I don't want to hear crap about he's a legend. No, legends are what you read in comic books and what you see on the movie screen.
He's a civil rights icon, is what they would refer to.
Well, in some people's mind, I mean, if that's what they find with, civil rights movement, you don't even have those type of leaders in 2018. So if people want to have that to hang their hats on about him being a civil rights leader, again, you get what you pay for.
Eric, thank you for chiming in, my brother.
All right, peace, man.
Peace. Yes, and so, see, Eric, and Eric's probably my favorite independent brother I know. He's more conservative. He's not happy right now with where my party is at sometimes, so he won't call himself a Republican, but he's more conservative. He's definitely conservative leaning, and he's not for the flim-flam of the Democrat Party, I tell you that. I think that infuriates him probably more than it does some of the crazy stuff that he says my party does, but he knows that the Democrats have a stranglehold on the community and do nothing for us, and he gets it. And so I'm looking at, in terms of this race, when is the leadership? Where is the leadership? I'm not putting this on Jonathan Kinlock. I think that's a lot to put on his plate for one person. But someone needs to talk to these guys about doing what's best for the party, doing what's best for the community. I mean, Coleman Young's not going to drop out. He's always going to be looking for another gig. But, like when you're talking about Rashida Tlaib, Chanel Jackson, I mean, these are all people that have pretty good setups and jobs right now compared to, running for office. But, you cannot douse people's political ambitions. You have Brenda Jones, who's a sitting city councilman that just got the endorsement. I've gotten some calls this week about some pretty important folks down in the mayor's office that are announcing for office. I'm sure I'll have them all come on the show at different points, but it's just, that's something else that Duggan has always prided himself on, is having probably the sharpest staff that he could have, and I think that that's panning out as you're starting to see some of these guys branch out and run for office, like Rico Razzo, who's running as a state rep. Shout out to my boy Rico. Give us a call, 313-778-7600. We're going to talk about this upcoming 2018 13th district. We can talk a little bit about the 11th as well, as Senator Mike Colwell just entered his name to that race. But let's go to Walter, who's on the line. Walter, my guy, calling in. They only boo you because you're great, Walter. They only boo you because you're great. Thanks for calling in, Walter.
Boo, you suck.
I thought my man agreed to give me a laugh track or something, man, or a clap track after I didn't complimented him last night, Jawan.
Yeah, I know. He sometimes is a sour puss, man. What can we do about that, Walter? What can we do?
He's all right. I like him. I like Jawan. He's not as brain dead as some of the other callers like Abdulia, known as Abdulia. And by the way, Eric is not conservative. Anytime he attacks me, he's not conservative.
Well, like I said, he prides himself as being an independent, but I think he's almost as equally disgusted by the Democrats as you are, Walter. It's just that he doesn't like some of the stuff that he sees in the Republican Party, so he can't bring himself to doing it. Am I getting? We going to a break?
Oh, okay. Bring me back over.
I'll be right back, Walter. We're live on the Wayne Bradley Show here on 9:10 a.m. The future of radio, and we'll be right back.
radio, giving you what you need to know. Listen up, it's the Wayne Bradley Show. That's what it is.
Home, life, and auto. Claims that are unfortunately routinely denied by insurance companies. Since 1996, I have successfully represented thousands of victims whose insurance claims were denied. If I can be of service to you, call me, Attorney Carl Collins III.
Whatever you need, it's right here on 910 AM Superstation.
We are here today with my friend, Everard Casimir.
Yes, sir.
If you weren't an anchorman, what would you be?
I think I'd be writing music.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Can you write music?
I can.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I'll say this. I sang at the fireworks this past.
Oh.
With Dornetta Davis.
You know what? You sure did.
I did. Did you watch?
No.
At least he's honest, right?
Donald Trump has now said he is removing the Obamacare subsidies, which will make it harder for people to offer, the Obamacare package. Now, what I think he's doing, he's going to make Congress work together. Senator Rand Paul, who is one of my favorite guys in D.C., is working with him on crafting this bill. So I have confidence that it's going to work out for the American people.
910 AM Superstation. We are the future of radio. 910 AM Superstation is the voice of the people. Don't believe me? Just listen.
I love 910 AM. I listen all day long. So many articulate and thoughtful, diverse voices and wonderful stories.
I always head to the 910 AM website for the latest in entertainment news, community events, and more.
So when you think of 910 AM Superstation, we want you to tune in, call in, and don't forget to find us on social media. Look no further than 910 AM Superstation.
3, 2, 1.
Let's go. 910 AM Superstation. We are the future of radio.
It's the Wayne Bradley Show. Conservative analytical radio, giving you what you need to know. Listen up, it's the Wayne Bradley Show. It's the Wayne Bradley Show. Conservative analytical radio, giving you what you need to know. Listen up, it's the Wayne Bradley Show.
And welcome back to the Wayne Bradley Show. We've been talking politics, and I was just reminded. I'm sorry that I did not say this in the beginning. I want to send a special condolences and prayers to my good friend Senator Marty Nolenberg, who lost his father today. Joe Nolenberg, who was a former congressman here in Michigan, great guy. One of my mentors, Paul Wellday, who's no longer as well, worked for him, and that's how I became familiar with Joe Nolenberg. And I've worked with Marty, and Marty's a great guy and his family. I'm praying for you guys. And like I said, your father was a great man, and I know him and Paul Wellday are up in heaven now, strategizing on how they can help make the Republican Party better. So thank you, Jamie, for reminding me of that. And I like I said, prayers are for Marty Nolenberg and his family. All right, we're gonna go back to Walter because we were talking about the 13th district. But Walter, what do you have to say about what do you think is happening here in the 13th district?
Man, what was that? What was that noise? My goodness.
Yeah, I know. He's just extra nowadays, man. I don't know. I don't get it.
Gerard must be drinking some wicked weed. Must be smoking some wicked weed or drinking some cheap liquor. No, I'm kidding. Like some Mad Dog 2020. Oh boy. But back to Eric before I get to my points. I don't want to touch off on the 13th district, but I would ask a good question about Conyers later on after my little tirade of comments right now. Eric is not conservative or liberal. He's kind of in between.
Well, he's independent. He's always prominent about that. He prides himself on not being a Republican or a Democrat. He's more likely to say, like I say, he's independent, but I think he's more conservative leaning, in particular fiscally, and like you don't like excuses. If you hear him, when he gets mad the most about is the excuses that Democrats make. So I'm gonna give him that.
Well, if he had his choice, he would choose a Democrat over. He don't want no conservative. He'll choose a watered down Republican like John Boehner and people like Mitch McConnell. Them he loves those kinds. So that makes Eric a counterfeit. But anyway, let me get on to my point. On your topics, you need to fire Mueller. Anybody that look like John needs to be fired. You know, he look like a demon-possessed version of John Kerry. That's right, I said it. That's right, I said it. Look like a demon-possessed version of John Kerry. So I'll let you know he's demon-possessed. He's up to no good. He's a first-class crook, and he's a liar. Need to get on out of here. Donald Trump should have been long. They should have folded this thing up. There ain't been no freaking collusion. I'm so sick and tired of hearing about this crap after a year later.
Yeah, it's obvious now that they have no collusion. So now they're digging into everything else that they can think of, and that's the part I don't think I like as a citizen of America, that we're paying these guys to go out and pretty much right now obstruct and go after our president. This has nothing to do with Russia anymore. Now we're going into financial issues, and we're looking into anything. Mueller's looking at anything he can to tackle the president on, and he's going after his family and people of the inner circle. And Jeff Sessions, I'm sure Donald Trump feels the same way. Jeff Sessions should have never recused himself, and this would have never happened.
Amen on that. That country bumpkin should have been got rid of that clown. I'm going to tell you what, Jeff Sessions, we were stuck with him because Donald Trump was listening to the base, which we know are some of the watered-down counterfeit Republicans.
Well, I'll give Jeff Sessions this. He was the very first person which you would consider out of that establishment or elected officials that came out and supported him. And he supported him on immigration. That was his big thing, the wall and all that. And so I'm not taking away from that, but I think that he took the easiest way out by recusing himself. I get it why he probably wanted to do that, but he should have kept a better control of this situation, and because it's gotten way out of control now. It's past investigating Russian collusion. We're going into financial crimes. We're going into everything else besides Russian collusion, which was the reason why this whole witch hunt was put together in the first place, Walter.
It's time for Obama. It's high time for Hillary to be sitting in jail or prison eating an unclean bucket of chitlins for her daily portion. Sitting right next to Barack Obama, Hillary's husband. That's right, right next to Barack Obama. He needs to be hauled off to prison. Who else? All of those clowns. Moeller, whatever his name is, Mulehole. Comes from the mole hole, a rat hole.
Robert Mueller. Robert Mueller. He's
Mueller.
Well, this is the thing. If he gave a real scope of what he was doing, then that would at least allow the attorneys to know where he's angling. But he's all over the place right now, and that's why I said it's become more than just Russian collusion at this point.
The Democrats' homie, Mr. Comey, he needs to be sitting up in prison, and all these folks that colluded. It's high time that Jeff Sessions get in session and do his job. And we go after these clowns and send them straight to prison and feed them a bucket of unclean chitlins, some dirty hog mogs, and all the rest of it because they deserve it.
And Walter, who do you think is going to come out of this 13th district? That's the last. I got to ask you about that. Who do you think are all these different folks that are jumping in this race? Who do you think is going to come out of the 13th?
I don't need no help for those clowns. You know why? Because if they're a dirty Democrat, it doesn't matter. Misery and destruction will follow their path if they get elected to 13th district. And also, we put a Democrat in place of John Conyers.
Well, that's his old seat. But what do you think about the idea that it could end up, something that black Democrats would lose their minds over is the fact that this guy, it could end up being a white guy from Westland that gets his seat.
Is he Republican, by the way? I'm assuming he is.
No, he's not. He's a Democrat out of Westland. I mean, listen, those guys out in Westland and Livonia, it's more of a labor issue why they're Democrats than it is of their personal belief system. A lot of those guys voted for Trump out there, but that's the main reason that they don't want him is because he's a white guy. It has nothing to do with anything more than that. They just don't want a white guy taking the seat of John Conyers.
Well, that goes to show that they would not even the black racist people they call this station. It's the same handful all the time. We know who they are. They love David Alexander and the racist Russell, who like the band called the conservative. They would never invite nobody like a true conservative on their shows. They like to filter off their calls when they see me calling. They like to pick the same 5 people that they pick every day. They look at this guy like they look at Duggan. And they've been blasting him because he's white. You hear these people like Banker and all the rest of them wanted Mr. Coleman Young in there. And they just for the sake of a white person, they don't want him in there. Yep. Let me get back to Mr. Conyers. I'm going to end with this, Mr. Conyers.
Go ahead.
I still have the vote. I still after all the people that was behind this clown for 50-some years. That's right, I call him a clown. I still ask the question to you, Wayne, and all the callers and all that's going to come after me. And if half of them, I'm going to ignore it if they try to criticize me. This is the question, the shout-out or call-out question. Do you guys, Wayne, do you still think he's with that word that they use, an icon?
Is he an icon? For me personally, I understand why they call him that, but, I mean, he hadn't done anything legislatively in probably 10 to 20 years. That's just being honest.
Okay. This is the reason I'm asking that question. I guarantee if you ask John Conyers, I'm going to go back to my old point of view and bring back to people's remembrance. If you would ask him, is he an icon, you know what he would say?
What's that?
That's right, I'm an icon. Icon your mama, icon your daddy, icon America, icon the world, icon my boys. I'm out of here, Wayne.
Thank you, Walter. 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 You know, Walter's like that. Just want to hit his hand. He's so bad, Walter.
Ooh, you suck.
No, you don't, Walter. Thank you for calling in, Walter. Let's go to Val, who's on the line.
Hey, Wayne. Lord, I was trying to get in before your friend called with all his foolishness tonight. But, Wayne, I am a first-time caller.
Well, thank you for calling in. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I listen to you. I don't necessarily agree with your party's politics all the time, but that's okay. I still like to listen and hear what other people are thinking and saying. But I wanted to tell you, Wayne, that I've heard you mention your former teacher, Howard Fancher. I call him the professor.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I know Mr. Fancher. We used to go to church together. So
the legend, Howard Fancher.
Yes, he is. That's why I call him the professor.
Oh yeah. Shouts out to Mr. Fancher if you're watching. He might be watching on Facebook or something. He's the legend.
Yes, he is. So I had to get in on this, Wayne, with this 13th district.
Please, let's hear about it.
I am, and I've called on some of the other shows, and I'm embarrassed and I'm disgusted. Mm-hmm. Historically, I have voted Democrat, but this is the thing. The problem is that there has been no strategy.
Right.
There has been there's been no real agenda for this, and this is what happens when you make politicians a god, if you will.
Okay.
So no one is given any afterthought of, well, what's going to happen, when this man vacates this seat. Now, unfortunately, he left it into under some unpleasant circumstances.
Right.
But he was a man of a certain age.
Right.
So, my God, where were the strategists in saying, hey, let's get all of these people in a room like your party do? I will give y'all that. Y'all do that very well, all for one and one for all. But why don't we get folks in the room and figure out who has our best interest at heart, who could be the best candidate, instead of this embarrassment where everybody and their mama, wait, I think I'm going to go pull some petitions and get in the race.
Why not, Val?
I mean, because this is just ridiculous. When I saw the list, I mean, you go from the man's son who has no background in politics to his great nephew. Mm-hmm. We got the council president. We got all these other folks. It's like, good Lord. I mean,
everybody's licking their chops for that seat. That's what all that comes down to.
And it is so embarrassing. And if history hasn't taught us anything else, y'all splitting the vote, good people. If anybody out there listening, really think about this.
Well, I predicted this months ago, Val. I said the day that happened, I said, or a month and a half ago. I said, listen, you're going to end up having Bill Wilder, David Kniezek as your congressman with 10 people from Detroit getting into this race. You're setting it up for that to happen.
It doesn't make any sense. It's like, and folks are still debating. And so we already got a list of people who have thrown their hats in the race. And then there's a slew of others that we hear rumors about are thinking about it. And no disrespect to any of these people. Some of them have been great advocates for the community and are great professionals and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But when you take this stuff to another level, good people, this is about strategy and what is best for your party and for your constituency.
We're going to get Jonathan Kinlock to talk about that. I don't know if he'll call into my show. I would sure love to hear his input on this, because the whole point of them holding off from having a special election was so that they could do exactly what you're talking about, which is, you're not going to get every person to agree. It's going to be someone like a Coleman Young that's going to run regardless. You're not going to get him to agree on things.
Right.
When I see Rashida Tlaib, Chanel Jackson, Brenda Jones, those are all very credible people in their own political realm. It just seems like there should be some conversation being held about, okay, well, if we all get into this race, we're going to split the vote. Ian Conyers and his son John Conyers. That's and then you have one of Conyers' former staffers is running. There is a lot of people in this race, and that's you have Sherry Gay Denogo, who is a state rep. She's running. So that's about 10 people that we've named already.
Yeah, it's Wayne. It's so frustrating. It's embarrassing, and it's discouraging, because it's like you all still don't get it. You all ain't figured it out, and sadly, Wayne, I don't know if they ever will anytime soon. And I think that's what frustrates the heck out of those of us that are really looking at this like this ain't about,
Val, I gotta extend you the invitation. The Republican Party is always here for you.
Wayne,
make your voice be heard.
No, thanks, brother.
Make your voice be heard.
Listen, I'm a rational person, and
we need rational people.
I really think through things. But Wayne, y'all got to get some better representatives, sir, to carry your message.
Now more than that, why
something.
can't you help being that representative, Val? Now more than ever, we need those people of common sense.
I never said I wanted to get into the game, Wayne. It's too much comes along with that, Wayne. But but I hear what you're saying. And that's why I listen. I listen because although I don't always agree with everything you guys say or do,
right.
You have some valid points on some things, and I must say that I did appreciate seeing them couple extra dollars in my check.
I bet, don't we all? The world didn't come to an end, did it, Val? The world did not come to an end with that extra money in your paycheck.
But wait a minute, Wayne, but I also am looking at it like, but is this going to cost us something down the road? So, Wayne, while I'm grateful, I still look at the big picture. And I take everything in stride and to digest it. I'm not one-sided, thank God, But, I just pray that they get it together with this 13th district thing, because this is becoming an embarrassment. It really, really is.
Well, at some point, we're going to have to get Jonathan Kinlock on the line. I hope, Val, that I can do that. Thank you so much for being a first-time caller. And don't forget, the Republican Party is here for you. I'm right there on 7 Mile in Livernois. We can sit down and talk. I'm open year-round. I don't just come open for election season. I didn't close down after the last election. We're here for you 24/7. So you think about that, Val. I'll look forward to you listening in, and call us back anytime. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care now.
All right. Now, you know what? I just saw a call come on my board that I've got to take this call first. This is one of my mentors, another person that has been, I would say, instrumental in help getting me involved in the Republican Party, someone that's always taking the time out to return, whether it's a phone call, email, and this is even when he was the Michigan GOP chairman. We're bringing in our former Michigan GOP chairman, former RNC committeeman from Michigan, Saul Anuzis. Thank you, sir, for calling into the show today.
Hey, Wayne, great to be with you.
Thank you so much. You got the round of applause there. Thank you for calling in.
Yes, I thought we were watching the Super Bowl again.
Thank you for calling in today.
Yeah, well, listen, I was watching. I was watching online here and listening to the folks kind of talk about what's happening in the 13th district, and I missed the beginning of the show, so I don't know if you mentioned the fact that former Congressman Joe Nolenberg passed away today.
I sure did. Jamie Rowe had mentioned that in my timeline, so I made sure I did that, and I was saying that him and Paul Weld, they're probably in heaven now, strategizing, trying to help make the Republican Party better up there.
There you go. We're trying to make America great again, too, so it all works out pretty well. But, no, look, I think one of the things I thought was interesting is that, you've got a bunch of callers who are clearly passionate about what's going on in the city of Detroit, what's going on in Michigan, and what's going on in this country. And they're calling in on a pretty nonpartisan basis,
right?
But just expressing both frustrations and their willingness to, listen and engage in conversation. And I think that's really healthy. And I just wanted to commend you for the job you're doing on your show and the job you're doing for Republicans and conservatives, because, not everybody's necessarily partisan, and oftentimes it's hard to get people to kind of cross over and deal with the Republican-Democratic side of the aisle. But, when you talk about conservative values and things that matter to people and what's important to them in their communities, in their homes, their churches, and their schools, right, all of a sudden I think you have a very different way of looking at what's going on in this country. And I just encourage your listeners to, engage with you as often as they can, pay attention and get involved in the conversation. And remember, this country is great because people are willing to stand up and say what they feel and get involved and get engaged. And I think, the conservative movement is kind of growing in this country. I think if you take a look at the African-American mindset and electorate, it's also looking at alternatives. It's no longer just, kind of tied to the Democratic Party,
giving this vote away,
following them.
Yep,
yeah, so I just, it's always great. You've been an old friend, a good friend, and somebody who's been, very committed to not only the party but to the community. And I think giving people a choice and making sure that both sides have to compete for your votes and that you listen to both sides of every issue is very important. So I just wanted to say thank you for what you do and encourage you to keep on keeping on, so to speak.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for always, like I said, being supportive of all the moves I've made. And like I said, I probably would not have been where I'm at right now without guys like you and Paul Welday helping me out and pushing me along. So thank you for calling in, and thank you for all the help you've given me.
Great talking with you. Take care.
All right, so God bless you. All right. We're going to go to Anthony. Anthony, my buddy, my MSU brethren, calling in today.
Man, I'm calling to check on you, man, to make sure you're okay.
I'm doing good. I'm doing real good.
I'm feeling really bad for you, man, because, wow.
Why are you feeling bad for me?
Because, man, I blew up in your face, Mr. Nunez. Come on, man.
What are you talking about? You talking about the memo?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, listen, we're gonna have the Democrat memo come out too. See what happens.
You guys were hype. You guys were so hype about that. And didn't you feel a little empty though? Tell the truth.
No, what I think it did was it revealed the bias. Now it didn't at the end of the day make it. They didn't commit any crimes.
Who's in charge of this stuff?
It's not about who's in charge of an executive department. It's about this is not a Republican. This is about being fair investigators. Okay, you have Republicans and Democrats in there.
Rosenstein. Did Donald Trump?
We're not talking about Rosenstein. We're talking about Mueller and his investigative team.
Is Mueller a Republican or a Democrat?
Listen, there are Republicans that never wanted to see Donald Trump elected. In fact, they're called never-Trumpers.
On Republican crime? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know if I want to look at it that way. I just look at it as people that did not want Donald Trump to be successful as president. And this whole Russia investigation has been been made to cast doubt.
I find it funny that all these cabinet members and advisors and stuff like that meet with Russians, and you're like, oh, there's nothing to see here. But what about Hillary's email? What's in those emails? We have to know.
Look, seriously? Hillary Clinton she ought to be looking at jail time right now for all the crimes she committed.
And Trump does it?
No, Trump has not committed any crime. Listen, when Bill Clinton married, when he met with the Loretta Lynch on the tarmac That was obstruction of justice.
Is that jail time?
The 30,000 emails she's gotten rid of, that's obstruction of justice.
So, okay, all right, don't change the subject. But anyway, like I said, he didn't even read the memo. He didn't read the. I'm sorry.
He read the memo. Listen,
read the intelligence.
I think that we are better served if we have both memos at one time. I think that was the only mistake.
Trump. So why does Trump need to get the FBI advice to release the Democratic memo?
Because it's confidential. He did. We got that too. It was confidential information and techniques.
Did not let the FBI check it out.
The FBI didn't want him to release it.
Stop it.
They didn't want him to release the memo. But what organization would want you to release a memo that is essentially damning to your organization? I mean, I understand why
to the organization. I thought the FBI works for the country.
Well, there's still an organization, though. It doesn't matter if they work for they're supposed to work for the country, but me as a private citizen. Listen, me as a private citizen.
Friends always say blue lives matter. So why are you demonizing?
I'm not demonizing them. I'm questioning.
I'm saying that they're an organization against Trump.
There were people in that organization that obviously had some strong biases against the president.
Oh, really? So this is the first time and the only time that FBI has ever been against the president?
No, it's not. J. Edgar Hoover had done things, so this is not uncharted territory.
What scandals did the FBI pull out on Barack Obama?
Barack Obama? I mean, listen.
What about George Bush?
I think
what kind of FBI scandals?
Well, listen. To be fair, now when you start talking about Donald Trump, when you start talking about Barack Obama, Benghazi was a scandal. The gun running scandal. Come on. There's a lot of things we can talk about here, but we're not going to.
How many hearings? You talk about a big nothing burger, as you always say. What happened with Benghazi? How many hearings did they have?
Obviously, we didn't have enough because we didn't get the real truth out, and Hillary Clinton didn't do any jail time. So we obviously didn't get enough time.
You don't care. You just need to rev up the less intelligent part of your base to get them revved up. That's all you want.
I don't know anything
about that.
Because
you guys are smart. You play on poor people.
And Democrats don't do. Are you saying that Democrats don't do that?
That's what you do. You play on their feelings.
That's not what the Democrats do to our black voters. Always screaming racism and things like that around election time, trying to get people all riled up. But I'm just saying, we know that all these things exist, but they act like they have the tools to this.
Do you think a person that's independent, a black person that's independent, listening to both parties right now, and you're supposed to be the minority outreach, correct?
Right. Yep.
Hearing what you're saying about how it's nothing with this Russia thing,
right?
And it's nothing, and the FBI is against Trump, everything, even though they're Republican. How does that? What makes you think that person want to join your party?
Well, like I said, I'm having more of a discussion about issues that relate to our daily life and our community and things that should really matter. This is a radio show, so we can talk about that. Education, your taxes, job training. Job training. You see what I mean? These are the things that we're going to talk about that Republicans have done.
What has done with education?
Pardon me?
What has he done? The woman he put in charge of education.
Well, they're still working through an agenda. The biggest thing we had to get through the first year was getting this tax cut done.
Trump, all he does
I'm highly confident with Betsy DeVos and the Department of Education that we're moving in the right direction, though.
Really?
Yes.
How?
She's been an advocate. She's been an advocate for most of her life on trying to provide quality education for underprivileged people.
Right.
Well, listen, you have an agenda. You have agenda items that you have to get through. And the first thing we did, and it took a while to get through, was tax reform, which was historic.
Tax reform.
Now you start bringing more in. You start, now we have a better forecast for jobs.
Okay. How much of those tax reform? How much of those taxes that everybody getting is going to education?
Parents might have more money to invest in their own kids' education, Anthony.
Oh, my God. Come on, Wayne. You can do better than that.
I don't know what to...
Come on, man.
I don't know what to tell you, man. I think...
we got tax reform like that.
I think that there's so many ways... There's so many ways you can invest that into your family. Invest in memories.
Take kids on who's paying for this? Let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
When you give a tax cut, does it have to be paid for?
You create more jobs and more income is coming into
the question. Does tax, when you give a tax cut, when you used to getting a certain amount of money in your bank, and you say, no, what, I'm going to take less money in my bank, so I need to make it up somehow. So how are we making up for these tax cuts?
More job creation and more money that's being repatriated from these corporations that's been sitting on the sidelines. That's how we're making up for it. You're seeing more people get bonuses. You're seeing more people get raises. And that means also more income for the country.
Let's tell your listeners this. Don't let that fool you. They're giving you crumbs.
Oh, well, some people are happy for those crumbs, Anthony. I don't know about you, but there are a lot of people happy to get that extra $2,000 a year.
The average person is a lot. But when you cannot fix the roads, you cannot build the infrastructure all over the country. You can see what happened with these Amtrak.
Well, again, Donald Trump is a builder, and we're going to be working on infrastructure. That'll be next. That's next on the agenda.
Why wasn't that first?
You got to have a tax plan that works. You got to have a tax plan. You got to have a tax plan that works for business. A business first agenda that will help. That will put the economy on stimulus and steroids.
$1 billion in tax break, and then I give my employees, a quick $10 million of that, right?
Then you create more jobs. You do more research and development.
Why was the tax cuts for the poor people not permanent like the rich?
Because the Democrats refused to step up and be a part of the bill.
No, you guys made the bill.
You can't. You could have. It could have been permanent if the Democrats would have had part in it. They made
the bill.
The Republicans did, but the Democrats refused to negotiate. They refused to represent their own constituency. They always let down their constituency.
If the Republicans wrote the bill, how are you blaming the Democrats?
Because they didn't want to take part in it.
What?
They didn't want to take part in. They didn't want to take part in the negotiations. I don't see how it sounds crazy. They created a bill that had a business first agenda. And if there were some things that the Democrats didn't like,
and I'm writing a paper and I wrote it all myself, and I get a bad grade on it, I could say it's Wayne Brady's fault because he didn't help me.
If it was a group project, you could.
Oh my God, dude!
How do you like that? How do you like that, Anthony? How do you like that, buddy? If it's a group project, and that's what Senate is. Senate is a group project of Republicans and Democrats.
And Hannity blaming Obama for the Dow going down the last 2 days.
Well, you guys, look, last week when the economy was booming, all of you guys, including you, called in here saying, "Oh, this is all the work of great Obama." So when the Dow crashes,
what policies? Okay, the tax reform was in December, right?
Yep.
So what policies did Trump put in place prior to that created the economy, made the economy so great?
Well, from the moment he was elected, the economy has been skyrocketing.
From
the moment he's been elected, he got rid of a bunch of different regulations. I'm telling you, he got rid of a bunch of Obama regulations.
Get rid of that made
all of Obama's executive orders that were bad for business. He got rid of them.
Like what?
A ton of them.
Oh my God!
Get out of here, Anthony. You get out of here, man. You're trying to make me look bad. My president's doing a great job, and we're just trying to make America great again. And I appreciate you for calling in tonight, brother.
Whatever, man. Go green.
Yes, go white. Yes, indeed. Thanks, brother. All right, let's go to John, who's been waiting patiently here. John, thanks for calling in. All right. John, if I can't, I'm saying, are you listening in? Thanks for calling in. All right, Johnny boy, he's gone. All right, so we're going to take a break here, I think. We got about, how much longer we got for a break? About another minute. Yeah, I'm not going to rush anybody. So when we come back, we're going to come to Mama C, David, Curtis, and Aaron. I got David calling in from the 517, too. So we got folks calling in from all over the state tonight. I appreciate you calling in. The number's 313-778-7600. You listen to The Wayne Bradley Show on 910 a.m., your superstation.
Giving you what you need to know. Listen up, it's The Wayne Bradley Show. That's what it is.
Since 1996, I've helped thousands of injured victims throughout the United States of America. If you need help, call me, Attorney Carl Collins III. My number is 855-CAR-HIT-U.
910 AM Superstation has arrived, and we're here to stay. We've got the topics, the guests, the opinions, and the facts.
Did you know Martin Luther King was a Republican? And John Kennedy, forced to be a Democrat to get the black vote?
Ain't nobody can force you to do
Look up
nothing.
your history,
Hold
guys.
on, if you got to look at your history, what happened is Coretta Scott King, Bobby Kennedy freed them from the jails, and it was the father that went to John F. Kennedy said, we're going to start voting Democrats. We're going to vote for John F. Kennedy. Get your facts right, man.
You want us to stand for the flag or to be patriotic, yet you don't see us the same way. I mean, you can't have it both ways. You can't expect one to come back having fought a war and then be disrespected only because of the color of your skin.
910 AM Superstation. We are the future of radio. 910 AM Superstation is the voice of the people. Don't believe me? Just listen.
910 AM is constantly hot, from intense debate to the funniest commentary. 910 has it all.
We appreciate the love, and we can feel the support of the city. Keep it coming.
I love catching 910 AM news on social media. It's the way I love my news. Short, simple, and straight to the point.
So when you think of 910 AM Superstation, we want you to tune in, call in, and don't forget to find us on social media. Stay up to date with current events and breaking news on our Facebook page. Search and like 910 AM Superstation on Facebook, and you'll see everything new, everything exciting, and all things Detroit. 910 AM Superstation News on Facebook Live right now. 910 AM Superstation is the voice of the people. Don't believe me? Just listen.
I absolutely love this radio station. This station gets me through the work week.
And we don't just show love to the callers. We see the comments and the posts too.
I'm always on the go, so being able to watch all my favorite hosts on 910 AM mobile app is amazing.
So when you think of 910 AM Superstation, we want you to tune in, call in, and don't forget to find us on social media. 910 AM Superstation. We're the voice of facts.
Here's what I'm talking about. We have the sexual harassment in the workforce. We have sexual assault under any circumstances at all. We have I want to talk about, office romances, over the last 3-4 generations, at the last 50, 60 years, as women have now permeated the workforce. Instead of having menial inroad jobs, they have positions of power. Instead of being, I'll be very sexist, instead of having secretarial positions and subordinate positions, they are now women who are in charge. And as we talked about, and I have some information here, in some of the harassment cases, you are getting women in power who see the amorous company of other women. And, they're in power. And yes, it can go both ways. And of course, there's naturally nothing wrong with good for the goose, good for the gander. You're having cases where there are men in superior positions who have had advances on other men that have been kept quiet before and now are, I don't say wide open, but are now making a lot more headlines.
910 AM Superstation. We are the future of radio. 910 AM Superstation. When you're looking to hear the truth, we talk about it.
Today in studio, we have a feral millennial. As a representative of your generation, albeit a poor one, there's a lot going on. So what do you tend to focus on? What do you think about? Do the charges that millennials are, shall we say, not necessarily up to the snuff of past generations? Does that bother you?
Sort of, yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, so what is it about your generation you think that is overlooked?
One criticism that I don't agree with is most of us don't work or get out there and try to make a living. We just sit around on a phone. Most of us don't do that.
That's true, and studies show that. Studies of the millennial generation show they're very entrepreneurial, very creative, and in fact, they're far more enterprising, perhaps, or at least as enterprising as other generations. Now, what do people say to you that's positive about your generation?
They all assume that we're very tech savvy. I mean, most of us are, but at my work, they go to me for their computer troubles. Even though we have IT, they'll ask me.
910 AM Superstation. We are the future of radio. We're the hottest station in town. Whatever you need, it's right here on 910 AM Superstation. The most powerful voices in the urban community. The 910 AM radio app is now available on iTunes, Google Play, and the Amazon App Store. And guess what? It's free. Listen to all of your radio favorites on the go. It's quick, it's easy, and it's brand new just for you. The new 910 AM radio app. Download it today. 910 AM Superstation gives you the flip side, the real side. This is our side.
Listen live now.
The #1 station, period.
And on that note,
Let's get back to the program.
You're listening to 910 AM Superstation, Detroit's only urban talk radio station.
It's the Wayne Bradley Show. Conservative Political Radio. Giving you what you need to know. Listen up, it's the Wayne Bradley Show. It's the Wayne Bradley Show. Conservative Political Radio. Giving you what you need to know. Listen up, it's the Wayne Bradley Show. That's what it is. It's the Wayne Bradley Show. That's what it is. Listen up, it's the Wayne Bradley Show.
And welcome back to the Wayne Bradley Show here live on 910 AM, your superstation, the future of radio. You're listening to the Wayne Bradley Show every night, 7 to 9 p.m., Monday through Friday. Been having a great show tonight. Thanks for all the people that have been calling in. Special thanks to my friend Saul Newsis calling in for the special tribute to Joe Nolenberg. Appreciate you calling in, sir. All right, let's go to Mama C, who's on the line. Mama C, you're on the show with Wayne Bradley.
How are you?
I am all right. How are you doing?
I'm well. I was wondering if it's okay. I kind of wanted to talk about the 13th Congressional District.
That's what we're talking about. Please do.
Oh, well, because it was once the largest voting district in the state. And at the time, it was generally accepted that no statewide candidate could win the election without courting city voters and amassing significant votes in Detroit.
Right.
And unfortunately, the state's largest city, which is Detroit, is only going to play a cameo role in the outcome. Because if recent voter participation is a future indicator, the majority of Detroiters are going to exercise their right to watch the results from the sidelines. At no time in modern political history has the city been more irrelevant in determining the outcome of this important election. And, you know, there's an overwhelming dissatisfaction with the candidates. And that's the reason that most discouraged voters or non-voters give for their disinterest. And almost 3/4 of the city residents are elderly, low-income, uneducated, or undereducated, unemployed, or underemployed. So most don't see these politicians, whether they're black or white, as an essential to improving their conditions. So whatever the reasons, whether you're a Democrat or Republican contender, they can be expected to spend the bulk of their time and resources, something where people are motivated more by improving their access to the economic mainstream than propping up the failed status quo. So does the voting trend transcend apathy or poverty? I don't know.
Ooh, tough question, Mama C. I think that a lot of people are definitely, there's a lot of voter depression out there. Not suppression, because they could go out and vote, but it's a lot of depression because they don't think that these candidates or these public servants actually are looking out for their best interests. Now, you know, the funny thing is, you know, a lot of people would argue me that John Conyers had their best interests, but I think they were going from a vibe from 20 to 30 years ago. It wasn't that he was doing something right now. And I think that affected the way a lot of people vote. For the younger voter, now, you know, the loyalists, that's not going to change much for them. But I do believe as the younger voters are looking at it, they don't see the same results and they don't see things being handled the way that they would want to be handled. And I think that is a big problem moving forward, in particular in this district, because you're going to have 10 people running for the same seat. I think that's just going to open the door. It's going to open the door. And, again, Westland and all the surrounding cities have larger participation rates than Detroit does. So that opens the door right there for Bill Wild to come in and win that seat. And I think it'll be interesting to see what happens if that indeed is what happens in the 13th district, Mama C.
Well, yeah, because the 13th district stretches well beyond the city borders. And so it's dramatically what was once Detroit's political muscle and influence. And in last year's election, August primary, only 13.9% voted. And the November general election, only 21.8%. So that's That's really sad.
Yep, I agree.
But I think I think they're dragging their feet because, like I said, most don't see politicians improving their conditions.
They don't. I agree, Mama C. Thank you so much for calling in today.
You're welcome. Have a great night.
You have a great evening. All right. Now, we're going to bring on a gentleman that I highly respect, who is a Facebook friend of mine, but I know him well. I've seen he's an amazing dude. He's going to probably light into me a little bit, but I'm welcoming Dr. David Walter to my show. Thank you, sir.
Hey, what's going on, Wayne?
How you doing, brother?
Me and your brother went to undergrad together, so I give you a pass sometimes on your brother.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. I need that. Appreciate the love. What's going on with you, brother?
Oh, not much. Keep up doing what you're doing. I may disagree with you, but as you know, I feel and I always argue, the more people competing for the votes, particularly the black vote, particularly in Detroit, and as we're having this conversation about the 13th district, the better. So it's a couple of things I do want to address.
Okay.
The first thing, part of it, and this is piggybacking on the conversation you and Miss C were having, part of the problem is black Detroiters have not embraced the possibilities of an independent political party or independent political parties that are community-based. Right. Now, the problem with Detroit is, to be honest with you, there's no Republican game in town. Right. You're trying to fight the good fight, but it really isn't. So it's the Democratic machine. Right. I mean, and this goes all the way back to Albert Cobo and all that, and then in the county even with McNamara's and all that. I mean, it's the oldest game and for the most part the only game in town for the city of Detroit.
Right.
So creating an independent party with community-based platform developed and focused on the community, and then forcing various candidates, and they'll be Democrats fighting each other,
right,
to bend towards the needs and the will of the community. See, how the Democrats have it set up now in Detroit is, this is our agenda, y'all got to get down with our agenda.
And it's usually forced on by, and I'm not trying to paint these guys as the bad guys, but they're the only guys with the money. It's either the auto unions or the worker unions for all the different public entities around Detroit. And they represent that small group of workers. That's not the community as a whole. And I think that's where a lot of folks get they don't know they don't figure that out until it's too late. These guys, their jobs have been secured, their earning potential has been secured, a lot of them I should say. But the average person that does not work for one of those unions probably feels left out if you've been in Detroit.
Indeed. And you know how many, if we looked at the data, what percentage of those union members, since that's what we're talking about, actually live in the city of Detroit proper?
There you go.
But whose influence are dictating the politics and the agenda for Detroit politicians. So black folk in Detroit, they really, really need to look at community-based independent parties. I'm going to keep it real. The Black Slate wasn't it. The Hope platform for the city council years ago wasn't it. Mm-hmm. Those were not community-derived, organic community issues.
Do you think like a New Era could be a part in that kind of community-based activism? That, I mean, I think some of the things they've done obviously has gotten the wrong kind of attention, but the overall message of understanding what the needs of the people are and having some organization to it, I think that's the part that impresses me the most about New Era in particular.
Yeah. I agree. New Era has potential. I'm cautiously optimistic and optimistically cautious all at the same time in regards to New Era.
I understand.
For a myriad of reasons, but they have the mobility and the organizational potential to get people to the polls. My concern is, are they developing a platform?
Right.
That these politicians will have to adopt or bend to? Or are they too imposing from whatever perspective that they come from,
right,
this agenda onto the community again, which will translate to some community support for their programming, but it won't translate to what we're talking about.
Right.
You see, it'll just bolster them as a community advocacy force. Kind of like...
and I think there's too much of that. To be quite honest, there's just a lot of that is going on in our community because of the vacuum of what I would consider that kind of leadership. You just have a lot of these different groups that get hot for a minute, do some things, get recognized, and they kind of are happy with their little piece of the power pie, I guess you could say, and stop working on behalf of getting stuff done for the people.
Indeed. That would be my criticism of Reverend Malik Shabazz and his New Garvey movement. Perfect example. And now, for better or worse, he's pretty much a mouthpiece and a parrot for Mayor Duggan. Not for the community, but for the mayor. For some people, that's good. For other people, that could be bad. And then in regards to the candidates, the girth of candidates running for the 13th, see, part of that is the reason that we're speaking to a career positioning, a springboard for a further career, however you want to frame it. But unless their policy recommendations in our agenda are organic to the community, it's going to be the same. And then you factor that in with the redistricting that now put Westland, at one time part of Grosse Hill and Wyandotte, into the 13th district. But if you look at the map, it's places that don't even physically connect to one another are all lumped into this one district. And, that's problematic. And you fit that in with depopulation of Detroit. And that was a deliberate thing, and people could argue against it or not. But the data reflects that. They forced you can't get a Section 8 in the city of Detroit. So if you accept a Section 8, it has to be a Wayne County Section 8, and they relocate you to places like Canton, Romulus, Taylor, Westland, to these income-based housing apartments, townhouses, developments, and all that. So that helps diluted that voting turnout that Ms. C was talking about. And then you factor in the disaffected, because for them in Detroit, it isn't Republican versus Democrat.
Right.
It is just politicians, period.
Yep.
So
I agree.
It's disaffected, because it's been a one-party domination there.
Do you think that, and that's, you could look at Detroit, but in general, in all fairness, do you think that black people, we've almost periled at the idea because we've only put all our eggs in one political basket? If you look at any other culture, any ethnicity, you don't walk into a room full of white people and say, hey, these guys are all Democrats or these guys are all Republicans. You would never make that assumption. But yet with black people, with our voting clip it being at 95%, have we given up some of our leverage in politics?
Oh, we gave it all up at the moment in the early 70s, mid-70s, when former civil rights leaders, because they're no longer civil rights leaders, they're politicians now, took advantage of the departure of the Dixiecrats out of the Democratic Party and others, and they left a void. So they joined their former opposition party, the party they was fighting against, because it was left wholesale unprotected, and a lot of them civil rights leaders became politicians, like John Conyers, if you want to call him civil rights leader, like John Lewis and they never,
at least Andrew Young got into the private sector, but John Lewis and John Conyers never got a real job after that. They've always been elected officials. And I shouldn't say they're not a real job, but they never got a job in the private sector. And they were able, because of their popularity and because, the people from their generation vote every time, they continue to get elected. Even to this day, if Conyers would have ran again, he would have won.
Oh, indeed. He would have ran until he died. He would have died in office. That's a given, and I'll say that. And that would be the same for people like John Lewis. And unfortunately, that old guard of the civil rights movement has thwarted the development of next generations, following generations of black leaders, because they silenced them because they just didn't know when to pass the baton.
Right.
And so we're in a crisis, or devoid of a new generation of black leaders, particularly in the city of Detroit, for example, because of that.
When you look at that, it's been two generations now. Because Conyers is 90 years old, And so the people that his kids, or not the younger kids, but typically his kids would have been in the 50s or the 60s, right? Those are actually our parents and grandparents, so now he's held on to the power so long that it's almost skipped an entire generation. That's why you have 13 people in that race or 10 people in that race, because they've all sat there and dreamed about that seat for quite a long time.
Yeah, it's skipped multiple generations. And then, because I don't want to, hold you up, I do, because it came up in your conversation with Tony, I have to address Secretary DeVos. Mm-hmm. Now, just as well I do, and I know you're very close with her family, with the family and all that. Mm-hmm. But good and dang gone well that back in Michigan, I'm in North Carolina now, but in Michigan, we rejected her and her husband. We ain't want no parts of that. You know that.
Well, so I think that it was a very successful campaign by the teachers' unions at that time to scare parents into not wanting school choice. I mean, I give them credit where credit is due. I still don't understand except from teachers' unions, why parents wouldn't want to say, "Hey, I just rather choose where I send my kids." And if like I tell people, if you live in West Bloomfield, school choice doesn't really mean anything. You're probably going to continue to send your kid to West Bloomfield High or whatever. But in Detroit, where it's like, okay, I'm stuck over here by Kettering, or I'm stuck over here by Finney, and then it closes down, I should be able to send my kid to where I want to send my kid, because the offering of education is not to my standards. And I can't drive, I've got to drive to here and there to get my kids to school. They should be able to make that. I just think that their money should be able to follow them and follow their, and put more choices in the hands of parents than I do the government. So, but it's a rough battle. It's a rough battle.
Yeah, and I can respect that. But part of the challenge is the historical perspective of charter schools and why charter schools were created. So for the older generation, when that first jumped on the table, well, not first, but the second time it jumped on the table for Detroit, this is the 90s, very, very early 90s. A lot of my parents' generation, because I was a teenager then, their concern and the reason why they were turned off is because of the charter school and the pushing of charter schools and the use of charter schools to subvert desegregation.
Yeah.
So many people viewed it in that context, right, that they were going to the school of choice. These charter schools would then just select the best student applicants. Right. And then cook the books. You got the best, so your school is doing better, but not really doing better. You just had the best students. So I think that was a concern, and along with the teachers union, kind of pushed that down. So that's something that communities had to revisit. But as charter schools are mainly corporate entities, it doesn't offer that same type of community involvement, community development, and education. So more black people, and that's why I got to respect a guy I went to undergrad with as well, Kendall,
right?
And what he's trying to put together, because at least that lends to what I'm talking about and decreases some of my concern. But we can't.
You essentially want to see someone that's already vested in that community create that charter school. If it's not some out-of-town entity or something like that, you rather see someone that's vested.
And the people in the community, parents and residents in the community, have input as well. You have your mandated curriculum by federal and state mandates and laws, but then you got the auxiliary or supplementary curriculum, and perhaps that is a space that they can have input, extracurricular activities, community-based or community need-based, supplementary. We got to bring back stuff. And this is where the black liberals went wrong. We got to bring back vocational education.
Right.
Detroit was the model vocational education school system and curriculum. White people came all the way from Germany.
Right.
The emperor of Japan came to Cass Technical High School, Lewis Cass Technical High School, to learn the model, to apply it to his developing nation after World War II. It went from that leading up to World War II. But it went from that to, the school district is screwed up. Well, we can't forget about what happened to that one.
And I think that half the problem is why we have not been sending our kids to vocational schools. And it started with our parents' generation because they pushed us all to go to college. Like college was the only way to go. It's the only way you're going to make some money. Because, my dad, I think he had like a history degree. And so from his generation, if a black man had a degree at all, you could get a job. And so it drastically changed over, even from when I graduated from college, which was in 99, to, you have a degree. But now that degree probably would not get you the jobs that it even got me 20 years ago. And so
no, it won't get you a job. A high school diploma would have got 30 years ago. A college degree won't.
Right.
I mean, you didn't have to have a high school diploma to walk into the factories. And my dad told me when he got out of Vietnam, he worked for all three of the auto companies about a week each and was like, no, I don't want to do this work.
Right.
And he entered through the desegregation and the pressure put on trade unions. He entered a trade union in Detroit. He was the first. Him and two other guys were the first black people to go through that trade union, to go through the school, and then go through the apprenticeship. And he ended up for almost 40 years being a boiler engineer for the city of Detroit in Detroit public schools. So although I went to Detroit schools for 2 years, 3 total, I spent more time in the basements of Detroit public schools than most people who worked there their whole lives.
Wow.
Teachers, all of the schools, the old Cass Tech, the old MLK, all of them. I mean, on the east side, the west side, the southwest side, all of them, because, they moved them around. And them boilers are bigger than most buildings. And they're in the basement, So I definitely understand, and I agree. So we got to talk about, and we can't just talk about the mismanagement in Detroit public schools.
Because what I find is interesting is that the kids in Roseville and the kids in Livonia, they still have vocational programs out there. They still have them in some of those places, and they run these kind of organizations to make sure they recruit young men to get involved in that. And their fathers and uncles still bring them in, Doc. So I think that's something we got to talk about more. Hey,
kids were graduating from Detroit public schools with not just a high school diploma, but a journeyman's license.
There you go. Hey, man, listen, I want to thank you for calling in today. I got to go to a break, Doc. But you're welcome to call back anytime. And I would love to have you call in during Black History Month and drop some knowledge on these folks for me. So please.
Well, it's Black History Month now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Let's put something together for the next couple of days so you can call in and really drop some knowledge, man. I appreciate you for calling in today, bro.
All right. Have a good one.
Peace. All right, you're listening to The Wayne Bradley Show. We'll be right back. Give us a call, 313-778-7600. You listen to The Wayne Bradley Show.
910 AM Superstation is the only place to get the best in talk radio from sunup to sundown.
You have to get to the point that the most important voice that's in your head is your own. And if you can't stick on what the voice is inside your head, then you got to get the word down deep inside of you, so that's what you can turn to.
That's right. We wake you up with motivation at 5 a.m.
What I've learned, life has its punches, life has its ups and downs, but don't stop moving. You know why? Because can't hit a moving target.
And keep you entertained and enlightened all the way to 3 a.m. Don't believe me? Just listen.
When Donald Trump said that he wanted to see reentry programs established for prisoners who are getting out of incarceration so that they can come back to communities and contribute to that community, I almost fell out of my seat.
910 AM Superstation. We are the future of radio.
910 AM Superstation is launching a new initiative called the 910 AM Ambassadors Program, where schools will be provided a platform to allow their inspiring broadcast and media students to weekly broadcast, highlighting their schools.
All we will need is a 60-second video taken from a smartphone, tablet, or video camera, highlighting a story at your school.
Whether it's featuring one of your athletic teams, a student organization helping in a community, a student being chosen for a scholarship, or a teacher's unique approach to relating to students.
Whatever weekly story will best show how your school is unique and set apart, that's what we want to promote.
Your weekly video will be featured on all our social media platforms from Facebook to Instagram. To receive more information or speak with our ambassador representative, email us at 910amradio@gmail.com.
And don't forget to watch and listen for your story soon on 910 AM Superstation, the future of radio.
It's the Wayne Bradley Show. Conservative Political Radio. Giving you what you need to know. Listen up, it's the Wayne Bradley Show. It's the Wayne Bradley Show. Conservative Political Radio. Giving you what you need to know. Listen up, it's the Wayne Bradley Show. That's what it is. It's the Wayne Bradley Show. That's what it is. Listen up, it's the Wayne Bradley Show.
And welcome back to the Wayne Bradley Show here live on 910 AM, your superstation, the future of radio. You're listening to the Wayne Bradley Show. I just want to let everyone know I'm on every evening from 7 to 9 p.m. There's a couple nights out here where the UD basketball games cut into it and things like that. So, but I'm glad to be on the air tonight. We've had some great calls. Thanks to Dr. Walton for calling in. Thanks for Anthony, all my MSU Spartan guys calling in, showing some love. I appreciate that. Give us a call, 313-778-7600. We've got Curtis on the line who's been patiently waiting. So, Curtis, thank you for calling in.
What's going on, man?
All right, how you doing, Curtis?
I'm all right, man. I heard you talking about that 13th district, man. I couldn't resist. I had to call in.
What do you think about this, Curtis?
Okay. Well, this is what I did. I got kind of sensational. I'm usually somebody that really don't make sensational choices, but she's a good sister, so I decided to support her.
Uh-huh.
So I put my support behind Rashida Tlaib.
Okay.
And she's the first Muslim sister to run for that seat or whatever for Congress, or I think probably ever. I read the article. I have the blank spots. I didn't really read it and absorb it like I usually do. So
I mean, you got a lot of people getting in that race, and so I mean,
yeah. But she's one of the people that's gonna pull a lot of votes, though, for a lot of reasons. And I didn't know who the conservative candidate who wants to run for that seat is. Whoever y'all are gonna put in there, man. I was kind of considering voting differently this time for Congress because I didn't like none of the names I was seeing. Like, nah, you know what I'm saying? I want to try to move in another direction.
You're still evaluating the talent that was out there.
But I've met Rashida before a couple times. She's a good sister. And, she knows what she's doing. So,
do you think it's possible, though, Curtis, that with 10 different Detroiters in that race, that you guys could end up splitting the vote and Bill Wild end up becoming the 13th district?
I don't know, really, to be honest. I'm going to put my support behind her, but really, I don't know, because Brenda Jones is in there now.
Yep, and she already got Duggan's support.
Exactly, and Greg Mathis.
Greg Mathis is not getting into the race. He announced that he was not going to run. So
right, he endorsed her, though.
Oh, he endorsed her, okay.
He his people to support Brenda.
Okay, gotcha.
So, yeah. So,
that's pretty big, then, I guess. She's got some major endorsements already.
That's what I'm saying. So, but a lot of people, now that they have no doubt in their mind that Brenda Jones was with Duggan the whole time, and that turned a lot of people off, too. So that might be against her. Because,
what do you mean? So you saying all the times they've disagreed in the public that was for show, and now that it's proving that him supporting her for the city council shows that they were already buddies or something like that? That's an interesting thing.
Yeah, exactly. That's the word. That's just the word. Everybody's talking about it.
Right.
They were speculating, but now they know that for sure that they've been supporting each other.
Interesting. Interesting politics there. It's a very interesting dynamics right there.
Yeah, some people want to vote for Coleman. Well, really, to be honest, I know they don't want him to be in politics no more anyway. They're trying to do whatever they can to get him up out of there. They're just tired of the brand. That's what it seems like it is with the Congress.
Well, I think that if he was, after he won his state Senate race, I think that he used the name and the brand well, but I think that he should have ran for city council as opposed to mayor and started earning his chops on the city council and not just thinking that because he named himself Coleman Young that he could just turn around and win for mayor with no leadership experience.
Well, I don't know. But see, even with that, he probably could have won the city council seat.
Yeah, he would have won a city council seat.
He could have, but I think he wanted to go longer.
Well, the thing is, if he wins city council and shows he has some leadership skills and some tact in that, then next time around, when Duggan either decides to run for something else or retire or whatever, and if he wants to even run against Duggan, he would have had a lot more to stand on than he did as a state senator with a very lackluster record as a state senator.
Yeah, but the thing was, he was trying to say, like, I got enough juice to run off the brand that I am, so.
He obviously believed it. Yeah, I mean, he obviously thought he did. And, I mean, he got into the, he won the primary, but I just think that was miscalculated for him.
Yeah, well, people really don't know that there's a lot of things that go into running for mayor, especially if you're black. You got to be in shape. You know what I'm saying? You got to be attractive to women, all this different types of stuff.
Right.
And it was a lot of stuff that people, I mean, they really whooped on. I like him, though. They really whooped on him on social media, man. They whooped on him.
Oh, well, he said a couple things between the motherland comments and all that kind of stuff.
They whooped on him on.
That made him a running punchline joke. I don't think I don't know if you say he didn't deserve it because he did. I mean, I look at it like this. Every politician, everyone that's getting into public office, you have to understand that's going to happen. That's just part of the game.
You got to put your big boy drawers on or your big girl undies on. That's how that rocks.
Yep. So, I think that there's no one person that is immune to that, and I think that he like a lot of other guys caught he caught some shots on that one.
Yeah, I mean they whooped on me, and the Detroit News whooped on me good. One guy said I was a pimp and a drug dealer and an ex-gangbanger, all a bunch of crazy stuff in the thing. Said it'd be a third world city if I became mayor.
Wow.
I got whooped on too. So
yeah,
it's just one of those things, man.
I salute every person that's willing to put their name on the ballot and try to run for office and commit to public service. It might seem.
So who y'all running in the 13th? That's another reason why I'm calling. Who y'all trying to run?
Well, we'll see. I'm not sure yet. I haven't heard anyone specifically that's putting their name out there, but. I'm sure there's a couple people thinking about it, but the last time John Conyers won that seat with almost 85% of the vote, most Republicans know that's going to be.
John Conyers, though. He marched Martin Luther King. That brand is dead.
Oh, I agree. I think the right candidate, could pose a serious threat. And I'm going to be talking to some folks, and I'm sure over the next couple weeks, you'll start hearing more about that, but I mean, there's a lot of people evaluating the Democrat field. I want to know who's going to be in competition.
I know who I'm behind. It's going to be crazy because a lot of people that turns a lot of people off. That endorsement that pissed a lot of people off in the grassroots community. Now that they know for sure, because a lot of other people been new, but.
We'll see how much this endorsement. We'll see how much this endorsement helps Brenda Jones as compared to other candidates. But thank you, Curtis. I appreciate you for calling in today, brother. I appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you.
All
right. Yeah, that shouts out to my man Ivory Smith up in Grand Rapids. Hey, Terrence Ty, what's going on, my brother? I need to have you come on the show. I need to have both of you brothers come on the show at some point. Love to have you on here. Let's go to John, who's been on the line. John, thanks for calling in.
How you doing?
All right, how you doing, John?
All right. One reason why I can see you Republican. This Democrat in Michigan, they just ain't got no unity. Divided, just like you were saying earlier.
Right.
But how come they just won't get with one?
Too many Negroes with egos. That's what I said a long time ago. There's going to be too many folks getting in this race because the fact that they feel entitled to the seat. They've been dreaming about that seat.
Bill Wild get in there, he gonna win because out there in Westland and them different places, he get the Westland voters.
Yeah.
And he get the East 7 Mile. I'm Abs over there at East 7 Mile and other places in Wayne County. He'll win. They'll just be sitting back because see when that dude happens, Brenda Jones, she can go on. Take her plate and go on back to the council.
Right.
the Democrat Party, I've been saying this for 20 years, different people I used to work with. The Democrat Party ain't got no unity. They can sit up there and talk about Republicans and all they want to. Only thing, you got to call John to call in a lot, and he brag on the Republicans. There's nothing wrong with the Republicans, but that guy, he know. You ought to tell him he can't even sit next to Bill Brooks.
Oh, that's
it's all right to name and endorse people, because they told me in school 45 years ago, in order for blacks to really be successful in this country, they got to be a part of both parties.
I agree.
The Democrat Party years ago with the UAW, them white folks that moved to Warren and moved to Livonia, they never did want you sitting next to the table with you, and they was blue collar just like you were.
Yep. No, that's what I tell people. Like when they always try to point out to me, oh, there's racism in the Republican Party. I said, you don't think there's racism in the Democrat Party? I was like, I said a lot of those guys just smile in your face. And on top of that, they have what I call the soft bigotry of low expectations. They say that black folks can't vote without straight ticket voting. They say that
I think when they took advantage, they really took advantage of the black votes. When you had some old civil rights leaders and old union guys back in the old days saying whatever, they gonna let you sit at the table with them. All of a sudden, you was invited to the party. No, you wasn't.
Nope.
And I could see their strategy back in the old days, because we shouldn't have. We want to be treated fair, just like everybody else.
Right.
And they did. And you had got only thing about the blacks in politics 40-something years ago. They know how to mingle and dingle with people and get deals done. But these politicians you have now, all they in for it is a name, from school board. And I'm gonna run for this. I'm gonna run for that. I'm gonna run for that. They ain't gonna do nothing, man. They don't. A lot of them run for office.
A lot of them do that because they don't want to work. They don't want to have a regular job. God forbid they actually had a regular job where they actually had to be accountable to somebody. It's a lot easier for some folks to run for office and pretend. That's what it comes down to. Fight. I'm fighting for you. Sitting in my office all day. Brenda Lawrence is playing Candy Crush during the the speaking, State of the Union address. These guys are earning a salary while they're out on their playing Candy Crush on their iPads, and I'm sure that's not helping out our constituents at all playing it like that.
I'm going to tell you another thing that a lot of these black politicians that does in this city.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime, we have so much crime in the neighborhood.
Right.
You don't have to wait. You don't have to wait until somebody elects you to give your opinion, to go out here and march and discriminate and say, brother, don't kill yourself. Sister, don't kill yourself. Don't kill your people.
Right.
See, we got a long way to go, man. And ain't no sense of putting all your faith in man. And man, we got other issues that they need to try to address. They never do it. They never do it. And then
that's the thing they do is that they don't get anything done in Lansing. They blame it on the Republican Party. Don't get something done in D.C. And it doesn't matter who's in charge. It's never their issue. They never take the responsibility for it. I've sat in NAACP meetings. I've sat in all kind of different places, and everything is we can't get nothing done because the Republicans are in the way.
And just like they sit around and saying Snyder then took the black vote in the city and away from the black, once upon a time he couldn't have did that. See, if you had unity, much as we complain about this governor and some of his views, if we had unity, a lot of things he did, we could have did something about it. But see, one thing about those white folks out there in the suburbs, they know these Negroes ain't got no unity about, because first of all, so many of them is too easy to buy. They is too easy to buy, and all they care about is their family and they self.
Yep.
That's one mistake. Once you done introduce that Negro to that dollar bill, they'll say yeah.
I agree, John. You're talking truth. Thank you for calling in today. I appreciate that. Yeah, and I think that is the problem, and I think that is why I've always started saying that black folks, we need to create our own political organizations and support our candidates, because when you put your black candidates out here in these cities, and the only people that are funding them are the unions, guess who they're loyal to? The unions. They're not loyal to the community that's actually going out and voting for them. They're loyal to the people that they felt got them elected. And somewhere in there, the translation is lost that, yes, these unions and these different organizations have funded your organization, but without the people in your constituencies and your, and the grassroots, you don't get elected. And I think that, black people are spending dollar, our money, our value. We have the money, we have the capacity to do these things, but we have to prioritize that. Stop letting people that are not from our community, not about the values that affect our community, make all the decisions. That's half the problem. You're letting folks from outside your community make the decisions for you on how you delegate your responsibilities, how you run organizations. You can't expect someone that's 65 or whatever, an older white person, to expect how to do things in your own community. You shouldn't expect it. You should work with them, partner with them, but you shouldn't expect for them to understand what's going on. They can give you a plan, but you need to be able to work that plan to where it's effective in our communities. And I think that, unfortunately, a lot of the elected officials are only trying to do their thing to get elected. That's it. And keep that piece of power till they can latch on to something else, another elected position, maybe a lobbying or something like that. But unfortunately, a lot of these guys are not looking out for the people that actually get them elected. And that's not just with, and I want to make sure I make that clear. We're not just talking about black Democrats. We're talking about politicians in general. And so we have to do a better job. In terms of black people, I just think we have to do a better job of funding apparatus, of supporting good candidates, and that they don't have to feel like they have to be bought out by one entity like a union and feel like if I don't vote this way, I won't get reelected. We need to start putting people in place that are going to support the people. And I think that is something we really have to take a bigger look at. So give us a call, 313-778-7600 here on the Wayne Bradley Show. We got about 10 minutes left. No, Rosalind, I wasn't saying it's old, but I'm saying in terms of older, in terms of millennials and people if you're trying to reach out to a certain community. I mean, I'm 41, and I feel somewhat old compared to trying to talk to some of these millennials about messaging and how they get their, content, whether it's through the, cell phones and things like that. So I wasn't trying to say that that's old. It's just about the connection gap. We're talking about bringing in young voters and getting people more engaged. So I don't want that to, a 65-year-old person is not that old, but there is sometimes a connection gap or a communications gap between some of those people. Shout out from Philly. Thanks, Spencer. You guys tore the place up. Congratulations to Philadelphia. I had to cheer for those guys one time. Even as a Cowboys fan, I'll take that over a win over the Patriots. You guys tore the place up. As a Cowboys fan, I got teased. You guys act like you hadn't been there before, but hey, you hadn't. And congratulations. You got a great future. Kind of scares me as a Cowboys fan seeing that you guys won a Super Bowl with the backup QB. So once Wentz comes back next year, it's going to be a bigger, tougher challenge. But congratulations to those folks out in Philly. Glad everybody had a safe partying in Philadelphia. Let's go to David, who's on the line.
How you doing, Wayne?
All right, how you doing, David?
Pretty good. I want to discuss, since this is Black History Month, I want to discuss a topic dealing with black people that for the past year I've been talking about. Some black people think that they should have reparations.
John Conyers he supported reparations. He tried to get that bill done for 20 years. It never went anywhere. But, yes, there are black people that feel like we should have reparations.
And they are totally wrong. You're not entitled to any slave reparations. And I'm going to explain why to all the black people who think they should.
Go ahead, David.
Okay? Number one, reason why you will not get a slave reparations check, you wasn't a slave. And even if you even if you were a slave, slavery was a legalized institution in America. Okay?
All right.
Number 3, your African kings, chiefs, and certain tribes like the Asante, the Masi, and the Hausa, to name a few, captured and waged war on other tribes, and they sold you to Europeans for rum and guns. You got that, people?
You're breaking it down for them, David.
Yes, I am breaking it down for them because they have for so long called me an idiot. I don't know what I'm talking about. And I say these black folks ain't read nothing or done any research. They think that the white man just came over there and just plucked them up and catch them and put them on the ship and brought them back. That is totally false. You can't remove 20 million people over a 400-year period without indigenous cooperation. And that's what those idiotic kings, chiefs, and those tribes did. They sold your ancestors who shipped over here in America into slavery. The Africans who were in power. And if you don't believe me, I always got a book that you can read and you can get the information from. There's a book entitled The Slave Trade by Hugh Thomas. It's at your Detroit Public Library.
Interesting.
It's 300 pages. It got all documentation and journals and logs and accounts for all the slaves that were sold. Okay?
Thank you so much for breaking that down for tonight, David. I appreciate that, brother.
You very well appreciate it. Okay, and then tomorrow I'm gonna call you about some other things that black folks, some books they need to read. 2 of them I recommend. I'm gonna tell you tomorrow. Okay.
All right. Thank you so much, David, for calling in. Right. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
All right. Oh man, David might have got the lines. He might have got the lines fired up here for the last 5 minutes with the anti-reparation talk. Let's go to Rick. Rick is on the line.
Hey, what's going on, Mr. Brown?
All right, how you doing?
I'm all right, man. You know, I haven't lost no respect for no black Republicans. I need you to know that because you are your own man, and you make your own decisions. That's the way I feel about life, and the way this is the way life choices. It's all about choices, Wayne. That's what I want to say, and I want to say this also.
Okay.
We have so many black idiots, and I'm going to be harsh about it. I'm just like Malcolm.
Go ahead.
It comes to that. We have so many black idiots, just like the one who just got off the phone. And I'm going to tell you why I'm going to call him that, because I'm not taking it back. Even though we were sold over here by our own people, whatever, that still don't make it right. And as far as reparation is concerned, a lot of Indians didn't get nothing took away from them. Their ancestors did. See, this guy looking at things, like a total idiot, just like Walter and all the rest of these guys. Don't nobody care about no reparations, but it would be nice because, Wayne, you are very intelligent. I listen to you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what?
Well, I've always said if they was going to give me reparations, man, just pay for my kids to go to college or something. I don't need the land. Just give me some tuition.
Listen, Wayne, I just want to say this, man. You are very intelligent, so you know what's going on. The cotton industry was the billion-dollar industry. And I'm going to give you a quick example, Wayne.
Mm-hmm.
Say you and another Republican, your age, your everything, y'all the same. And y'all both get into business because you hit it and you had your few million. He had him a few million, right, Wayne?
Mm-hmm.
So y'all went and then, boom, something came and crashed your business, both of y'all. See, that white fella can go back and get some of that cotton money from grandma and grandpa. But you done. Yeah. You got to go file bankrupt. You got to go and start all over. You ain't got no stolen money and rapist. You ain't got no money to fall back on because you built everything yourself with your black self, with your strong black mind and you that type of individual. And I'm using you because, like I said, a lot of black Republicans are really smart. And if they want to be a Republican, that's on them. I ain't got nothing to say about it.
Okay.
But the fact of the matter is, we have been used and abused. And, I mean, Wayne, come on. You can look at Roots and want to cry. Even in 2018.
12 years a slave, it gets you mad. It gets you mad.
Yeah, but we got to put it behind us and keep. Why shouldn't we get reparations for all that work we did? Why shouldn't we get for reparations for our sisters being raped? And when I say we, hey Wayne, I don't mean me and you. Mm-hmm. That means somebody who needed, because Wayne, I did what I needed to do to be able to take care of myself.
Right.
Buy me a house, car. I'm a single parent raising a kid, a 13-year-old, and you ain't got to give me nothing because I do heat, cooling, and plumbing, and I can go ahead and make literally, Wayne, $100 an hour.
Woo.
Depending on the job. Not bragging.
Ain't that a blessing? That's a blessing.
Yeah. And I used to be a street guy, Wayne, out there selling that junk years and years ago. And I decided to go to school just like you, man. That's why I can't knock you, because I know where you coming from.
Right.
You've seen another side of Republicans that you can exploit, and not in a bad way, just to make yourself better.
Right.
So when I hear, Wayne, when I hear these idiots get on here, and that's we like crabs in a barrel. We black people are the worst enemy to each other. You know what I mean? Just like
it's funny that a lot of conservatives, a lot of different folks have that opinion. I mean, I think that is going to be a topic of discussion one day, Rick. Because I gotta get these last two callers before we get off the air here. But
okay,
hey, I'll tell you what, I appreciate you calling in tonight, Rick. And make sure you call back in tomorrow night. I got you got cut off there. My man Jawan, he's working the boards. But hope you call back in tomorrow, and I appreciate you calling in, my brother. Let's go to Sheila or Shelia.
Barry, how you doing?
All right, how are you doing?
Okay, I'm just peachy for Tuesday.
All right, nothing wrong with that.
As always. I probably won't have enough time, and I don't want to take up all your time. But you know what? If they read a book, and I mean a book of substance, he would be a dangerous black man. Mm-hmm. There is a book that I read years ago. It's called The Slave Ship by Marcus Whitaker.
Okay.
And he would explain to you the African chiefs who captured and sold their black people into slavery, because it was under the pretense that they were going to get them back, because they hired out their spoils of war. Uh-huh. They paid their debts, and then they came back. The African slave trade was different. Now, he says, I don't deserve reparations. The hell I don't, because I wasn't a slave. Guess what? Jews, the U.S. is paying Jews right now who are living in the USA. The survivors who are dead, their descendants are getting reparations. Don't tell me that I don't deserve reparations. Don't tell me that. Okay, don't tell me that. I don't think Jews deserve reparations, because it didn't happen here. It happened there.
Right.
So you're going to tell me that my folks, your folks, and whoever who built this country on the backs of black folks for free. Let's get that together, for free. Mm-hmm. Okay? Families separated. Women didn't know their kids.
The government destroyed the black bank.
Didn't know. They destroyed it. Yep. And don't forget about your insurance and your banks. Black folks insured by Chase, Aetna, the slave owners. Are you serious? They better get a life. Okay? He's just like an old Negro. A bowl of old Negroes, 10 Negroes in every bowl.
You guys love talking about each other. Thank you so much, Sheila, for calling in tonight. I appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for calling in. Well, I tell you, my folks call in and they talk about each other. We got one last call here on the air. My man Maurice calling in. Maurice, thanks for calling in.
What's up, Wayne? I know I have but a little bit of time, so I'm going to call you tomorrow, actually, what you have against unions. But what I want to say to Leroy, Walter, and Davis, those are three of the most confused brothers that call this radio station. Have a good night, man.
Oh, Maurice, you guys, I appreciate it.
I'm working. I won't be off till 5:30 in the morning. You have a blessed night.
You have a blessed evening, man. Try to stay up. Thanks for listening in this evening. I appreciate it. Man, that was a fun show. Fun all the way to the end. You know, my callers, they like talking bad about each other now. It's just a big party on the Wayne Bradley Show. But we'll be back tomorrow at 7 p.m. Thank you for listening in to the Wayne Bradley Show today. If you want to hear the replay, you can go to the Wayne Bradley Show online and listen in there. Appreciate you for listening to the Wayne Bradley Show.
Or check us out on Facebook as well.
Oh, yes, and we're always doing Facebook Live.
Check us out on Facebook as well. Type in 910 AM Superstation. You can check out all the latest videos and clips on 910 AM.
There you go, the future of radio.
The future.
You're listening to the Wayne Bradley Show on 910 AM. See you tomorrow night. Yeah.
Celebration Church of Detroit is on the move. Join them starting Sunday, October 1st at 9 a.m. at their new spacious home, the Auditorium of Southeastern High School, 3030 Fairview on Detroit's East Side. Come and receive a life-changing word from Bishop Greg Davis. Starting Sunday, October 1st at 9 a.m. for 90 minutes of praise, worship, and the Word. Their new home, Southeastern High School, October 1st, 3030 Fairview.
Hi, I'm Tavis Smiley. I hope you're having a great day. I certainly am. I'm here in Los Angeles with my staff as we're getting ready to premiere this new show, The Upside with Tavis Smiley, on the Word Network this spring, a show about the power of resilience, the ability to overcome the obstacles that life puts in our way and live on the upside of life. Excited about bringing this new show to the Word Network this spring. We're busy working on our new set design and getting our theme music ready and our new logo. You can't do a new show without a new logo. There's the new logo for The Upside with Tavis Smiley again, coming to the Word Network this spring. You can go to our website at theupsidewithTavisSmiley.com to get more details and sign up to stay in touch with us. But I'm going to be checking in here periodically to give you updates and share some secrets about the backstory of building this production to come to the Word Network this spring. So until next time, thanks for tuning in, and as always, keep the faith.
910 AM Superstation has arrived, and we're here to stay. We got the topics, the guests, the opinions, and the facts.
Did you know Martin Luther King was a Republican? And John Kennedy, forced him to be a Democrat to get the black vote?
Ain't nobody can force you to do nothing.
Look up your history,
Hold
guys.
on, if you got to look at your history, what happened is Coretta Scott King, Bobby Kennedy freed them from the jails, and it was the father that went to John F. Kennedy said, we're going to start voting Democrats. We're going to vote for John F. Kennedy. Get your facts right, man.
You want us to stand for the flag or to be patriotic, yet you don't see us in the same way. I mean, you can't have it both ways. You can't expect one to come back having fought a war and then be disrespected only because of the color of your skin.
910 AM Superstation. We are the future of radio. 910 AM Superstation is in a league of its own. We are the only talk radio station in the Metro Detroit area sensitive to the African American community.
Make sure you join us on what station?
910 AM the Superstation.
910 AM.
910 AM. On 910 AM Superstation.
910 AM Superstation, Metro Detroit's only African American based talk radio station. Whatever you need, it's right here on 910 AM Superstation.
We are here today with my friend, Everard Casimir.
Yes, sir.
If you weren't an anchorman, what would you be?
I think I'd be writing music.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Can you write music?
I can.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I'll say this. I sang at the fireworks this past.
Oh.
With Thornetta Davis.
You know what? You sure did.
I did. Did you watch?
No.
At least he's honest, right?
Donald Trump has now said he is removing the Obamacare subsidies, which will make it harder for people to offer, the Obamacare package. Now, what I think he's doing, he's going to make Congress work together. Senator Rand Paul, who is one of my favorite guys in D.C., is working with him on crafting this bill, so I have confidence that it's going to work out for the American people.
910 AM Superstation. We are the future of radio. 910 AM Superstation gives you the flip side, the real side. This is our side.